Save your ammunition.
I gotta hand it to id Software. Doom 4 is an amazing surprise, and it's not because I didn't think something like this could ever exist again. I knew it could. I just didn't think the AAA industry had any nerve to create something like this ever again. And can you really blame me? With the endless supply of Call of Duty and its second-rate imitators that have been shoved down our throats non-stop over the last decade, that was a pretty safe belief to have for the longest time. Doom 4 surprises me in three major areas. The first one is the story. I didn't keep up with the marketing too much, and from what I did look at, there wasn't any indication that a story would even be there. I also read an article which I wasn't able to find for this review that said something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna be really focusing on the story for this game." But, shocker shocker, there actually is one, and it's pretty damn good. Though there isn't much of it on the surface. Doom 4 is a reboot of the franchise, and what we get here is a completely different take on the invasion of Hell and why it happened. I can't say anything more because if I do, I'll end up revealing a huge piece of the story. That's how little there is. Don't get me wrong, there's more than enough to get us through the game, and what little is given to us on the surface is pretty interesting, but if you want the real background and all the extra stuff, you have to pay attention to the visual cues and read the text logs. That's where most of the story is given to us. And I was just fine with that, to the point where I read the backstory. Yeah, me, a guy who has universally hated having to read giant walls of text mid-game to figure out the full story in the past. And I was trying to figure out for the longest time why that was, until I realized it wasn't the story itself that was keeping me engaged. It was the way it was presented. Doom 4 is a great example of a minimal story done right. It opens up with action, not exposition, catching your attention right away, and then after that you look around and you're like, oh, fuck, something happened while I was asleep. The first two rooms combined with the first bits of dialogue in the opening gives you just enough to lure you in, and then the game appropriately separates the audience. Those who want to keep shooting can keep shooting. Those who want to know more about the story, go read these. It strikes a perfect balance between keeping those who want to know more about the story playing, because they want to find out what's going on because the game sure as shit won't tell them anything, and keeping those who just want to shoot things playing, because then they see they won't be constantly bogged down by a story they couldn't care less about. Now second is the level design. You see, from around the time Wolfenstein 3D got released, all the way up until about Call of Duty 4, I noticed the level design in first-person shooters was slowly moving from this to this. Of course, COD 4 strapped a rocket engine to that transition and sent it flying forward at warp fucking speed, and from 2007 until around 2012, that was pretty much all you could find from the AAA shooter. Games that were heavily scripted, painfully linear, all the stuff I showed in my Legacy of the Modern Shooter video. But starting in 2013, I noticed that developers were moving away from that, and what we had up until Doom 4 was something like this, which, hey, I'll take this any day of the fucking week. But at the same time, the very architecture of the level is still a pipeline. Sure, all the draconian bullshit like, okay, if you walk forward without blowing up this tower, we're gonna insta-kill you is gone, but newsflash, guys, you don't get brownie points for taking that out because it should have never been put in to begin with. There's nothing interesting about this level unless you count the skybox, which, hey, great for staring at, but you can't do anything else with it. You can't explore it, can't interact with it, nothing. There is nothing that makes me want to come back and replay this kind of level again. You need something a little more like this. Now that's more like it. Elaborate, complex, and most importantly, fun to explore. For example, you see this room? Watch this. Pretty spiffy, huh? There's so many things like this in every level, and plenty of other secret areas that all have awesome stuff too. But there's one other thing that really seals the fucking deal. For the whole game, but especially the level design. Because it wouldn't be nearly as awesome without this. The third and biggest surprise of Doom 4, and one I never expected. It's the options menu. No, really, it's the options menu. You go to the options menu, then to the game section, and you've got your standard options like changing the difficulty, the crosshair, stuff like that. Then you've got the option to turn the entire HUD off, which I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Lots of games do that, but not enough, so it's still nice to have. But what got my attention was all the options below that. Because initially I only saw that you could turn the glory kill highlight off. I would have been more than happy with that because it makes the combat way too easy. But then I noticed all the other options. And I was like, where the fuck has this been all my life? Doom 4 has the most flexible heads-up display I've ever seen in any video game. You can disable everything ranging from the entire display all the way to the notifications you get when you complete an objective and everything in between, and you can customize it piece by piece. If you want to turn off just the interaction prompts, those things that pop up when you can throw a switch or open a door, and leave everything else on, you can do that. Or if you want to turn everything except those prompts off, you can do that too. That's how flexible the HUD is. This is the perfect way to bridge the gap between the older gamers that grew up with games that didn't tell you what to do or where to go, and the younger gamers who grew up with games that did. This could even bridge the gap between the casual and hardcore gamers. You got some guy who thinks it's sacrilegious to play a shooter with anything but the health, armor, and weapon stats, so he can turn everything but those off, and then you have a guy who wants to play right after, who doesn't know shit about video games, so you can turn everything back on for him. Why is no one talking about this? I haven't seen a single review of Doom 4 that gives this feature even a passing mention. This is the best part of this game, because even with everything else that I love here, which is pretty much everything, I wouldn't love Doom 4 nearly this much if it had all the heads-up bells and whistles with no way to turn them off. I know this sounds really odd, saying that the HUD customization's the best part of this game, but think about it. What if you could customize the HUD in every game like you can here? Really sit there and think about it. Pause the video if you have to. If more games put something like this in them, we might be able to create a perfect harmony between all gamers. Make everybody happy for a change. I know for a fact that if I could customize the HUD in every game I've ever played like I can here, it would make every one of those games far more enjoyable. Who knows? I might even be able to tolerate playing garbage like this. Anyways, this is where I'm going to stop talking about the campaign because there's nothing more I can say that hasn't already been said by 100 other reviews, and I want you to find the other stuff on your own, because do I recommend playing Doom 4? Abso-fucking-lutely. It's the first game I've played in a very long time where I don't really have any major negative things to say about it. The only real complaint I do have is that some of the guns sound and feel very underpowered, but it's not that big of an issue. And I thought it would be, but it's not. It doesn't bother me like it should. Let's see, multiplayer... Oh, wait, I didn't play it. And from what I've been hearing, no one else played it either, so who cares? Not me. Even if I'm wrong, and plenty of people are in fact playing, I still don't care. SnapMap, on the other hand, started out as a forgettable pile of junk, but about a year and a few updates later, it's now worth checking out. I'm enjoying the levels I've been finding, and now that we have Community Spotlight, where folks can vote on the best map, finding good maps is easy enough. I don't know how the building side of things is because I don't build in SnapMap, but from what I've heard, the number of objects you have is still pretty limited, but scripting has gotten a lot better. The only thing I wish it had is the HUD customization, because what I talked about earlier only applies to the campaign. You can't fine-tune the HUD in SnapMap, and you're left at the mercy of whatever options the map creator decided to put in, which kind of sucks. Okay, forgot to write an ending. That's it.